it is a mandate, and I'm going to explain why. And the man won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in his favor from the standpoint of blacks, Latinos, and young voters. He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020.
That's Stephen A. Smith on The View doing the unthinkable. He's telling the truth. And the ladies are losing their minds. Oh, he's also laying the groundwork for his 2028 presidential run. But that's for later. Sonny's triggered, Whoopi's about to hit the emergency eject button, and KJP waltzes in a little later to spoon-feed them the usual Democrat-approved bullshit. Welcome to Steadfast and Loyal. Let's see what else these Mensa candidates have for us today.
He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020. 89% of the counties shifted to the right. That's a mandate. We can sit up there and play around all we want to. In 2020, Trump didn't win the popular vote. He didn't win the electoral college vote. A matter of fact, the Republicans hadn't won the popular vote, if I remember correctly, since 2004. Yeah. But they did this year. So 20 years after they last won a popular vote, they won the popular vote. They won the electoral college vote. The man won every swing state. And on top of it all, 89% of the counties shifted against. I don't understand how people can look at that and say, there's no mandate.
Stephen A. is saying the quiet part out loud. Democrats didn't just lose, they got their asses kicked.
So let's talk about how people are feeling about his performance, because a CNN poll this week found that 52% of people disapprove of Trump's performance in office so far. So even though he may have won the general election by less than 50%, 52% disapprove of what he's doing. We're also seeing Republican voters at town halls opposing his executive overreach, giving Elon Musk the shadow presidency. Yet you said, quote, Trump is closer to normal than what we're seeing on the left.
Oh, here we go. Sonny Hostin, America's favorite race-baiting elitist, stepping up to the plate with another DNC-approved bullshit narrative. And what's today's desperate spin? Oh, right, polls. Because if there's one thing we've learned, it's that CNN polls are totally reliable. 52% of people disapprove of Trump's performance so far. And how many people approved of Biden when he was wandering off stages like a lost grandpa at Costco? Where was the breathless CNN poll coverage when he had the worst economic approval rating in modern history? Oh, that's right, nowhere. And now we're supposed to believe that Republican voters are opposing Trump because he's governing too hard? Please. The only people melting down over Trump using executive orders are Democrats who loved them when Biden was signing away American energy, border security, and basic common sense. And wait, did she just say Elon Musk has a shadow presidency? Ha! I love how these clowns act like Musk hacked into the government mainframe and started running the country from Twitter. No, Sonny. Elon Musk just isn't censoring conservatives anymore. Instead, he's exposing the unchecked, disgusting government spending and fraud that's been lining the pockets of crooked politicians through corrupt NGOs, like a mafia front. And that's what's got you and your leftist friends crying into your oat milk lattes. Now they're even attacking Tesla dealerships and charging stations like deranged lunatics. Absolutely disgusting. Sonny Hostin is what happens when MSNBC, talking points, and identity politics have a baby, and that baby grows up to be a smug, insufferable partisan hack. But please, Sonny, tell me more about how democracy is at risk, because no one's listening to you anymore. All right, what's next? Let's see what other delusional nonsense they've got for us.
When Stephen was leaving, she said, nice to meet you, nice to meet you. I disagree with you.
Yes, I do.
And I was curious, and so that's why I was curious.
I do, on the mandate, on Donald Trump and his administration having a mandate. And we have to be super mindful and careful of this because he does not have a mandate. And what I mean by that is if you look at the numbers, just look at the facts. He won with the smallest margin of the popular vote since the 19th century. That is not a mandate. Look, the strategy is chaos. It's truly chaos. But we cannot forget, and we have to start asking the hard questions as to what is happening right now. This is a 5-alarm fire.
So, Secretary, you were also an assistant to the president, so that meant you were able to interact with the campaign off time.
Actually, I could not I had a special kind of role as the press secretary. I did not interact with the campaign.
So you had no, as
I did
a
not.
commissioned officer,
I
the
could
president,
not,
you didn't?
because
so you
as
had
the press
no
secretary.
insight into the polling that showed he would have lost every swing
I
state?
did not.
We're going
Trump,
to
but it
we're going to
matters.
take a break because you see this conversation getting going.
Ah yes, time for KJP's greatest hits, Fear, Lies, and Projection, Volume 10. First off, KJP says Trump has no mandate because his popular vote margin wasn't big enough. Oh, so now margins matter? Because last I checked, Trump actually won the popular vote, something a Republican hasn't done in 20 years. But suddenly, because it wasn't a 10-point blowout, we're supposed to believe it doesn't count? Yeah, okay. What a load of steaming Democrat-grade BS. And let's talk about the Electoral College. Because that wasn't just a win, that was a landslide. If the roles were reversed and Biden had won this exact same way, they'd be screaming from the rooftops about how it was the most secure and historic election in history. But because it's Trump, they've got to spin it like he barely limped across the finish line. Oh, and let's not forget, these are the same people who had zero problem calling Biden's election totally legitimate, even though he had historically low enthusiasm, hid in his basement for most of the campaign, and had to be carried across the finish line by big tech, the media, and mass mail-in voting. But now they want us to believe Trump's win doesn't really count? And now we get to the fun part. KJP, doing what she does best, making up dystopian horror movie plots. Apparently, thanks to Trump, we now have poisoned water, toxic food, planes falling out of the sky, and an impending mystery pandemic. How much Adderall do you have to take to think this sounds believable? Here's a reality check, Karine. Trump isn't taking a wrecking ball to the government. He's bulldozing the waste, the fraud, and the deep state parasites who spent decades leeching off the American taxpayer. But yeah, let's pretend firing a few useless bureaucrats is a national emergency. Oh, but my favorite part. When she admits she wasn't even allowed to interact with Biden's campaign. They knew the guy was a walking disaster and kept the press secretary on a need-to-know basis. Imagine working for someone for years and still having less access to him than an Uber driver at the White House gate. Meanwhile, in the real world, Trump is actually doing what he campaigned on, securing the border, slashing waste, fixing the economy, and restoring America First policies. And Democrats? Well, they're busy fear-mongering about fictional catastrophes and making TikTok videos. If you're tired of the lies, the excuses, and the CNN-level gaslighting, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment. And don't forget to check out steadfastandloyal.com, your home for fearless, unfiltered truth. As always, stay informed, stay free, and stay steadfast and loyal. I'm Jimmy Parker. Thanks for joining us.